Hey, Honey Wash Day. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota, along the Porcupine Creek, where the porcupines roam. And we are honored and blessed to be joined again by Chaz. I'm so glad she doesn't give up on us and just say, I don't want to do it anymore. Good morning, Chaz.
Well, there's so much to talk about today. I'm all excited. Have you seen the news?
Yes, I
Uh,
have. I have.
it-
I don't know, like I don't know, does it change the structure? I don't know.
yeah,
Does it?
well, yeah, I mean, and him and Mitch McConnell, I think are great. And and I guess we should say to the people that maybe aren't on the news all the time that Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, longtime senator from South Carolina, died yesterday evening. His staff announced after a short pause, this or a short illness. They said they on Facebook, Laura Loomer is already saying that Russia did it. Like, and Laura Loomer is like from Israel, so Israel probably did it because they always like confess themselves. So, I mean, who knows? But Lindsey Graham was a MAGA Republican before there was MAGA, and he is like, um, I'm sure enjoying whatever recompense comes to spirits like him, who, after, they meet, they start that journey because he was not a good man by any means, and I hate to celebrate a death, but I think Mark Twain said something about like uh, I don't want to kill anyone, but I will celebrate their death. Hey.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, he was a horrible man, and he did, for a long time, I think uh people like him and the reason I think he's so bad is because he's an obvious, I think, gay man who attacked gay people. Like, I think that's horrible. Like, the thing about fascism and dictatorship and living under, being living under these kinds of circumstances is that people are cowards, right? Like, he didn't want to be his own self, and so he'll just, kill other people, attack other people who are, not afraid. And I think that's what, in this culture right now, everyone's always afraid to share their opinion. And, I was thinking this morning because, so many people in our communities now, there's a lot of people who, rather than build people up, they cut people down, and they keep them at a certain level. And that's white supremacy. That's whatever. When I was growing up, my aunties and my dad and everyone, my grandma, everyone like breathed life into me. Like, they put so much love and all that kind of stuff. That's what you do to your youth, to your kids, but not, non-Indians. I think, there's a lot of violence and a lot of domineering, authoritarian, people, families that sort of mimic this, Trumpian, style, of living, and this farcity, right? Like, he thinks he's the greatest guy in the world. He's actually very selfish and very incompetent, but everyone around him acts like he's like, a golden child. How many of, like, Indian country leaders are just like Trump, like, don't know what the hell they're doing, and people just maneuvering them along. And it's those people maneuvering them along who need to be held accountable in a lot of ways. And so I think that's, what's happening now is that, people who speak out are being attacked. I think the New York Times reporters, someone got served with something from the FBI this week, the DOJ. I think it was the New York Times reporters, maybe, the Trump administration attacked them, for speaking out. And uh, I didn't know, but that guy down in Texas who has been in jail now for 9 months for being a citizen journalist, for being a guy who was like following people around and videotaping people. And he's been in jail for 9 months. And they charged these guys and sentenced them to 37 years. Like they're shutting down um dissent, and they're trying to scare people from saying the truth. And so it's a very scary time in America. And for other people, I think for us as Indians, we've been living with these freaks for a long time. So, we understand that, what do we do? What can we do? We can't do nothing. And we just have to, ride it out and, make sure we end up on the right side of things and take care of each other and, do what we've always been doing. Um, and pray. We've got to pray a lot. And I think that's what we're doing. A lot of people are praying, and a lot of people doing Sundance, and a lot of people committing themselves to this way of life. But this way of life is hard, being a traditional and being a thinking indigenously, that's really hard. It's really hard because you got to really, contemplate a lot of stuff, and you got to be very careful about who you associate with, and you can't be just going willy-nilly. And did you see, I'll stop talking, but did you see that the people up in North Dakota at the whatever were doing a reenactment of Custer's Last Stand again? Those guys, they had a whole reenactment. I'm sure they had Indians there, that they got to, and probably in this version they won. But so funny, they did the whole reenactment, all the old white men and freaking grizzly old hair, the dressing up they were, they were savagely wanting to fight us, that, that's the cosplaying fighting us. What the fuck? I'm sorry, but seriously, and then the other thing, and then I'll stop because I haven't let you talk yet. Gee, I've been talking the whole time. Is that they opened up that jail or the prison in Rapid City, and they, instead of doing a ribbon cutting, they cut the razor wire. The barbed wire is used, that's for people, not cattle. They think that they're cutting they're making fence, they're building fence. Old Governor Roden is a cowboy rancher, so they're cutting that freaking, that's for human beings. They're so desensitized to our genocide, to their theft of our land and our generational poverty. They're so desensitized. They don't understand that those things are connected. They just want to celebrate putting us in prison. Remember, she said prison, private property, police, and something else. Police, yeah, whatever. Prison, yeah, police, prison, and private property is what she said.
I don't know. I well, it's like I woke up this morning and I just kind of piddling around, and I thought, well, I'm gonna do some things here, so I'm gonna find a TikTok live or something to listen to while in my background noise. And the first thing that popped up on TikTok was a TikTok about Lindsey Graham, and I thought, oh wow. Then I didn't believe it, so I had to go to the internet and
That's
looked it
right.
up, and then they're like, yep, he's gone. And then I was thinking about that, and yesterday or something, I think it was yesterday. Well, anyways, it's been at least a couple weeks that Mitch McConnell has been MIA, and
Still,
people are saying no, he's alive, and no, he's not, but nobody wants to tell us. I don't know if he's doing the Kim Jong-un thing. Remember when Kim Jong-un, they said he died, but he must have got COVID really bad and just went into, and then you didn't see him for months, and then all of a sudden he's back, and he's he's okay. So I don't know if he had gotten COVID and they didn't tell his people or what. But anyways, that happened, and I was just thinking about that this morning. So what's the change? So they had a 54 to what, 46 gain in the House. So they had 4 or 5 seats over in the House. So they're going to lose Graham and they're going to lose the Kentucky guy. Hey, is Mitch McConnell up for re-election this time?
No, I
You
don't
know,
think he was. I think he was. I think he's up next time. So that's why it's a special election. That's why what's his name could run for it. And I
Thomas
think,
Massey.
yeah, I think
I
the
would
deadline,
be
I think the deadline is August 3rd. And so if they can keep up the charade until August 3rd, I think that's what's happening. Maybe he's brain dead. They said when the 911 call came in, it said an unconscious man. And Mitch McConnell's like 91. I don't know how old he was. He's barely hanging in there. And if they had to do,
500 years old.
yeah, with like, how many freaking, I mean, Jesus, like, um, the Senate, they have to do term limits. They have to do term limits on both sides. They become corrupt and they need to go. The baby boomers like cannot see a different world and they need to go away from public policy conversations because they see things like red and blue, and we see things as these ancient people making decisions to benefit wealthy people. That's like basically what's been happening in America since the get-go, and it's still going on. And the true nature of politics is what's happening with the DSA and the good wins that are happening from that, because that's the only game in town, in a sense. With the way the other two big parties are just so controlled by outside influences, literally Israel and Russia. Like, we know that Russia, Hungary, all this stuff, both of those guys um are running our government. We know that since 2001, since 2002, something like that, through CPAC. It's known information. It's contributed billions of dollars to control and keep us as Americans poor and racist and miserable, and that's all we are. We're just racist and mean. And I've turned racist and mean, and people who know people not I'm not racist because of course I don't have power, but like on Facebook I'm mean, and I'm mean because white people think that we have to, there's a decorum. Liberals, there's a decorum that we have to follow. We can't be saying that the president is raping kids and they're eating babies. We can't be saying that, even though we know it's the truth, right? We can't, they don't know that it's the truth because they're on a different algorithm than us, right? And so they don't know it's the truth. It's not their fault, but the truth needs to get out there, right? So I'm gonna freaking say it, and I'm gonna say it over and over again. The guy, so I commented, of course, on the KFYR post about the white man cosplaying Custer, and then someone was like, "Why don't you live in the future?" Oh, I don't know what it was, but I was really going back and forth with them, and I said, we can't have dental care because you guys are all racist. And then or something, you guys are, because you don't want, that's why they don't want universal health care. It's because they don't want black people and people of color to have good health care. They're racist. It's like from 1874. It's like been a public policy choice by them, which is crazy. Why later than 1874, but anyway, the and so I gave a picture then of Senator Thune and Benjamin Netanyahu. There's that picture of them both standing there. I said, "Here's your dental care." I said, "This is where your dental care is, right here," because they get free dental care, they get free housing, they get all that stuff over there, and we don't get nothing here except for race wars and crumbling infrastructure and even class. I mean, I think we're definitely in a class war now, and I think that's kind of where we're at. And people, have to decide, are they racist, or are they miserable being on the bottom of the boot of the man, are they, they gotta, people got, and that's the thing. Like, are white people so racist? And our people too, because, there's a lot of MAGA Indians, there's a lot of MAGA black people, there's a lot of MAGA, all this stuff, where white supremacy took hold, and they're racist. And so, I think that's the challenge of the new century. Can people overcome that within themselves and realize that, they can be empathetic and live like, in good relationship with everyone, instead of just doing whatever the heck you want, wherever you want it, like rape culture, which is what they've been doing for the last 500 years.
You know, I don't know how to feel about all of it. It's kind of like, um, I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
kind
I
of
know.
done with it. It's like, these guys are just, I mean, they're all like, oh, we're big, tough colonizers, we're big, tough occupiers. Oh, we're just all these things and blah, blah, blah. And they go around like that. And then you, it's just like, get over yourself, person or people.
Well,
It's insane because why? And then they're the biggest crybabies. I mean, they'll say, "Oh, those liberals, oh, those Democrats are crybabies. They're snowflakes. They're this, they're that. Oh, did we hurt your feelings?" But then as soon as we stand up, a progressive stands up, or whoever stands up, then they're like, oh, we got to pass laws and we got to make sure that they don't even get to breathe air.
we gotta send the DOJ after them. We gotta send the Department of Justice. I mean, they are literally using the FBI. They're using the FBI against people speaking out against them, Maggie. Like, that's where we're at right now. And people are all just like, oh, we just
Florida,
gotta.
aren't they? Florida, people are knocking on doors in Florida. The feds or the state or whatever and arresting people. Did you post this? Did you say this? And then they're getting arrested in Florida.
In Texas, that, kids in,
In
9 months
Texas
in jail.
too?
And that citizen journalist
Wow.
has been in jail for 9 months. And I think, this is, we have to talk about, there was another shooting by ICE, that man who was shot in Houston. And his son, who gave such a, wonderful public, plea for his father's humanity. And I thought that was just, it's so horrible that, this country is like, it's like we're so propagandized. And and that's the thing too. It's like the propaganda, like, people don't, people are educated by Giselle Maxwell's father, right, who was a spy, like, educated by those folks. Those folks are educating us. And so we are propagandized into thinking that we have, moral authority over whoever, as Americans. And, and then, white Americans have everything because they're the Americans, and then Black Americans and Asian Americans and Native Americans and all the other Filipino Americans, everyone else gets to be a part of it. But being a part of it is like, the rat race, and you're a rat. And, a lot of times here on the res, they send us off to the to get educated so we can come back and help our people. And a lot of times then we go out and we lose our humanity because we, have to, compete in the rat race in order to survive. And the rat race is, you got to one up the Joneses. You got to keep, stabbing your colleagues in the back so you can ride further up on the corporate ladder. And be the top of your profession so you can get notoriety. And in fact, all of these people who are giving that notoriety, who are giving these accolades, who are giving these this money, are all, raping babies. So, like, why are you, what are we, yeah, you're right. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's what I feel. I feel like in so many ways, like, it's a really great time for us to go back to really being Indigenous and living in the day and, enjoying, every moment and being a good relative, because that's what it really matters. It doesn't matter how much money we die with, doesn't matter how much stuff we have, doesn't matter, how many people like our posts on Facebook, because a lot of people are just liking it because they want to, monitor you. They don't like you. They're just liking you because it's a media thing, and the media is fake. And I've gotten off in Facebook so many times because people just lie, they just steal people's statuses, people steal people's ideas, steal people's whatever. And there's a guy on there who got kind of famous on Facebook. He's been stealing everyone's statuses, and then one of the guys, a two-spirit guy from Canada, really called him out on it, said, dude, stealing everyone's things and you should stop. And here and it doesn't even stop, but he gets even worse. And I'm just like, dude, like, does social media is fake. Like, those people are like, some people maybe, whatever, you can't organize on social media. Like, I don't know. You're not even on Facebook anymore. And tell me, like, honestly, because it's like Meta. And the other thing is that Waze, do you follow the Waze, which is the like Google, the Maps thing? Maybe not. Maybe you don't
Oh yeah,
even.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that is it's from Tel Aviv. Like, they found out that company is from in Israel, and the new conditions or whatever say they own all your data, they own all your information, and whatever, Israel, right? So guess what? I deleted that app, and you know screw you, Israel. Like, get out of our, like, country. We hate you. We don't want nothing to
Get
do
out of
with
our
you.
lives, man.
Like, you guys are horrible demons. You're even worse than Americans. They are. Did you see too? They also they captured Roy Khanna. Did you see that?
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Imagine
insane.
a powerful representative from the United States of America being at the mercy of 21-year-olds with rifles, racist 21-year-olds with rifles. Like dang, like, the United States is literally is the Israel now. Because how even Donald Trump, like, to allow that to happen to one of our leaders like that, how embarrassing. Like, we're worthless and scary too. Like, what
I
the
am.
heck? Like, who's in
I,
charge?
then people are talking about MapQuest, going back to MapQuest, and then having all the conversations about how MapQuest used to work, where you'd put in your information and then it would tell you, so you'd print out all those pages and then write down what it says, go this far, go 20 miles or whatever, take right, doing all of that. And then people are saying MapQuest kind of updated some of its services and then is kind of growing, so maybe it's going to get better. I don't know. I haven't downloaded MapQuest yet, but I do need to get rid of, like, I did get rid of Google off
Oh, you
my
did?
phone. I
Oh, no,
deleted.
I still have Google. Google, like, still is my daddy. So, like, they all, I mean, that's what
I
I feel. As long as I have an
I do
iPhone.
Google on my laptop, but on my phone, it's all off. I have Apple Maps, but then I'll probably get rid of that and then just do the MapQuest maps. And then I used to have all kinds of things on my phone. I
Yeah.
just started deleting everything off my phone because of the surveillance and tracking and selling your information, and my location settings always stays off.
Yeah.
I
There,
also bought what is that called? What is that called? A VPN. And I put a VPN on my phone. And so that's probably why I don't know my phone's ringing or anything, because people say ever since I put VPN on my phone, they can never get to me. But I don't know.
well, yeah, me too. But I do those things, but also since the Patriot Act have had total access to us already. Like since the Patriot Act 1 or 2, we're like a surveillance state. Those data centers are for surveillance. Like that's what they want to do, is just, really control and do whatever. And I think that it's failing because of the overreach of the social media companies, really. Like the social media companies have damaged people in such a way that the younger generation, they don't even care about Facebook. And they don't even, but they do, there are apps and stuff that they do care about. But think about it too, like I think about that kid who's on YouTube, well, he's not on, maybe I don't know where he started, but these streamers like that, I Show Speed, you know him, do you know him? He came to South Dakota,
No.
and he's just
Oh, is that
online
the guy
all.
walking?
No, there's another different guy
Okay.
whose name is I Show Speed, and he's like one of the most popular people on who's a streamer. He's got like 10 million people. He's gone all over the world. He's gone to Africa. He's gone just everywhere. He's a really cool kid. And his he started streaming, and his mom like kicked him out because he was like, that's all he was doing, and she was like, get out, whatever. He got really popular. Now he's like, a billionaire or whatever, because he gets paid for subscribers and whatever on YouTube. And so his mom's got a good relationship with him now, and he loves his mom, right? So but he's on all day. And so like that's like, the kind of celebrity I think that's going to be in the future is the people's choice. And that's why Hollywood is losing its hold on us, and it's losing they're losing their propaganda. We know that the textbooks are being controlled by these conservative, they were Christians. We thought they were all Christians, right? Because Israel kind of like this whole like takeover kind of just happened, halfway, like because we were very I don't know, I guess I wasn't that aware of, I didn't pay that much attention to it, earlier on in my career as an organizer. I really didn't. And even though I started out, protesting against the Iraq War, the first one, so I was really I've always been about peace and all of that. I think I was very propagandized too at the very beginning, thinking that, Israel, deserved to exist because of the Jewish, the Jewish people and the Holocaust. Like that's, that was really propagandized into me a lot. And but when you take a step back and you see, in reality, that the history of those people, you look at the history of those people who lived there, and you see that the people that are dying right now in Palestine are the descendants of the original Jewish people who stayed there, to the indigenous people who stayed there. And those people who are doing the genocide are the Europeans, right? Europeans created Israel. They went to other places first, they went to other places first, and they scouted out locations for Israel, and then they chose a place where people already existed. And so that's the Europeans. Europeans created North America, United States, the United States, and they created Israel just because they felt like they could, and they have been doing that with weapons and cash every since then, you know. So I do feel tired of it too. In so many ways, like, oh, it's
Well, I don't know if their time is coming to an end, but they say all things do come to an end. Um, I don't know. I also think that it it's just kind of like we're in this big, old and new, or old and change, or old and different, or the the fake us and the real us, or whatever, are kind of like in this big battle over who controls America. And fake us right now is kind of winning, right? Like, because they've managed to get all the power. They control just about everything. Where I'm really surprised they are not charging us to breathe yet, and all of that. I'm sure they're going to ruin the air so bad that we all have to have oxygen masks and stuff like that. So then we will have to be charged for air. The same thing with their water. You think about what they're doing in Gaza. Israel was caught poisoning the wells of some of the Palestinian people. And you think about what that's doing in poisoning the water system in which the Palestinians drink. And then they have to go and be dependent on Israel to get their water. And so here in America, we have the same thing. Look at how many of those mines, their pools, how they've leaked, ran into the rivers, just poisoning our water system. These farmers and their chemicals that they use to protect their crops and so forth, Roundup, all of that going into our water system. So it's like the Oglala aquifer is, they say there's a lot of pollution in it. It's not safe to drink. I mean, depending on who you're talking to. And so you think about that and how much money they are now making, and then we're still drinking this water out of these plastic bottles. And I'm guilty of this as well, and putting microplastics into my body, breathing microplastics, because everything's made out of plastic. And even though China is working really hard on making plastic into recyclable polyester, and doing all these different ways in which we can reuse plastic, we burn it.
there's a there's a
We
there's a kid there's a kid on here on TikTok who is making plastic into gasoline. That's what they need to do. They need to transform that. But I think that, yeah, you're right. Like there's like, they've pretty much destroyed everything that they can. And so now, we're at a point where humanity is going to be destroyed, because I mean, humanity being the American empire, and that is actually what's going to be destroyed, right? Because I was reading something the other day that the Romans didn't realize the Roman Empire fell. The roads just stopped being fixed, right? Like the infrastructure just falls apart. They're destroying our infrastructure. That's what Lindsey Graham and the conservatives have been doing for 20 years. John Thune, these guys have been attacking infrastructure, and attacking the poor, instead of taxing the rich and creating an equitable, diverse, thriving, environment. We've been perpetuating the same, you know, cycle of abuse, but it's got to end, right? Because we're at the end. There's nothing else. There's no waterways that aren't polluted. There's no the soil is, the soil is poisoned as well. The pesticides, the fertilizers, the herbicides, the all that stuff, it's in our bodies, it's in our foods, There's a parasite in the lettuce. So don't try to eat no salad nowhere or berries or nothing because you might die. It's like a 5 day out, parasite that gets in you and guess what? The infrastructure, the healthcare system is, on the, fifth year of being overburdened with, caretakers who are underpaid, administrators that are, making bank, and, a whole, workforce that's like, um, we're tired of this shit. We're tired of it, I mean, and I think that's the thing is that this thing's hitting us in a way that's like, we're at the very end, and what's going to happen? I keep thinking we're going to do what Italy's doing. I don't know if you know about Italy, but they've been protesting for many, many weeks now, shutting down everything. General strike. That's what we need is a general strike. And but people are too poor to even think that that's a possibility. You know what I mean? To think that, because everyone needs to work. Like a lot of people around here, you can't, you don't go to work, you don't eat. And so, because no one's going to take care of each other. It's not going to be there's no safety nets. Even our tribes are little, you know, reproductions of those systems that are harmful, right? Like none of our tribes are really doing things in a way that our ancestors would, I would challenge. Like I do, we sort of idolize the casino tribes, and the casino tribes are living high in the hog. Their houses are huge. They have multiple houses, some of them in multiple different, very expensive places. And look here, still we here in Eagle Butte, these people are living on the street. And so can you say you're, living a Lakota lifestyle when you're thriving in the middle of the rat race? I mean,
I think there's some things to that, Chaz, and then um there's like each of us have a responsibility, and we make the choice what we're going to do. The choice belongs to us. When we're born, like even in the womb and conception, like as we're developing, we start to grow and learn and adapt. And so the one thing that we grow and learn to is our mother. So we're in our mother's womb, we can hear. That's one of the first things, like we're hearing, we can hear, and we can kind of feel her tensions and stress and all of that stuff. And so, but when we come out of the womb and we start to build our life, like all of the things that come into our life, all of those experiences, our sensations are really important to how we develop our perceptions and our worldview. And so when we go forward like that, like we often have an understanding or belief that we're all Lakota and we're all this way. But as you're describing, as you're talking, there's a lot of things that have happened to us, right? We've had boarding school, we had reservation life, we had all of these different things that have happened to us. Even, growing up in alcohol homes, drug homes, domestic violence, neglect, sexual abuse, all of those things. Growing up in those start to develop within us, and then they give us this scorned perception of the world. So we can most commonly sit and say, psh, whatever, like we don't have no faith and belief in anything that is being said by anyone, because we live a different life. And even reservation life, when we think about, well, what can we do? It's what does one person want to do? Like me, I had to change myself. I had to do work on myself. I could have easily, people don't believe me, but I could have easily been a person that died on the streets of White Clay, Nebraska. People don't believe that. They think, gee, you used to drink. Yeah, I used to drink, and I had a problem with it. And so, but I had to do that. I had to make that change. And there was nothing around to help me. Like treatment, that wasn't an option because I couldn't leave, like what you're saying, Chaz, I couldn't leave work. I had to work. And so I had to find some other way to do it. And I chose, I mean, I tried for several years to quit and I failed. You know, I was a horrible quitter. And so so then
I quit quitting.
I quit. Yep. And one day I just said, I'm done. That's it. I'm not doing it anymore. And it was the hardest thing of my life. But as I went through the process and I then decided to go to counseling. So I went to Red Cloud because Red Cloud had Catholic social services. And so I went there because I didn't even want to go to IHS because those are all Lakota people in IHS that are counselors that do not have confidentiality. So I'm not going to go over and talk to them and have them be drunk and blabbing it all over the place. And so I went to Catholic social services. And then I went through that. It took me 6 months of counseling through Catholic social services and doing my own work on myself, healing myself, forgiving others, going through all of those processes. If I wanted to sit and just not take accountability for what was happening in my life, I would have been dead on the streets of White Clay, Nebraska. That's the honest truth. That's how far I was in my drinking. But I made a choice to change. I made it, and I had an education. I had my bachelor's degree, and I struggled and suffered with alcoholism. And so the choice was mine. And I
Yeah,
didn't have.
I was just
Oh,
saying,
go ahead.
I agree about that. I agree with that choice that we do have to individually choose. But also, I also agree with with how you started out was that, all of us have um started to hear and see things from the womb in different ways, right? Like, so some of us, some of us were able to be resilient and continue to grow and to see and to be uncomfortable and to change and to hold ourselves accountable. And some of us have been so traumatized that we can't hold ourselves accountable. We can't step out of that Washichu way, and I think it's a Washichu way of thinking, which is that, we just got to do this, what we've always done, and not talk about the fact that the president is raping children. We can't talk about that. Just continue to act like America is normal, and that's the kind of, living that facade of what you talked about earlier, that that we have to put on. And so in order for us to be a part of mainstream America, we have to assume a facade that we're not, that we're not, we don't have indigenous values of caretaking for each other, that we want to compete with each other and stab each other in the back so we can get to the top and be the most powerful and control everyone around us, and have everyone listen to what we say. A lot of people think that we should listen to what, our elders say and the baby boomers and all that stuff. Well, I mean, none of the things that you guys say is anything different than what's happening. And I don't like what's happening. And I'm not gonna, continue to live in a country or in a system or in any kind of situation if it's abusive, right? Like, we got to be able to feel, in our spirits that we can challenge things. And I don't think a lot of people, some people don't have that spiritual, part of recovery, because that part of that has really been, damaged in our communities. I think, the spirit of indigeneity, and because of the poverty and the violence. And so I feel like, in order for us to recover, um, to become, to see outside of ourselves and to come back to, an indigenous way of thought, um, we have to see things, very brutally, because it's a brutal freaking world. But also, as to understand that not everyone has the same understandings that we do. And so that's why I think a lot of people on the res aren't ever going to be able to get healing, and they'll just die like that. Or they'll just like, get sober and be like, because that's another thing. A lot of people quit drinking and quit acting up, and then just, get diabetes and be miserable and, judge other people and do all that stuff. Don't get rid of the shame, is that's why we drink, right? Because the shame pervades and makes us feel like, we're unworthy of love. And so we don't even love ourselves. And, a lot of times, like I said earlier, that when I grew up, they poured love into me. And so that's what I do whenever I feel and I'm in a good way. I just pour love into everyone because that's how I was raised, and that's how I want to continue to help others and to help, the youth and all that stuff. And so people, a lot of people just take that, right? Just take it and don't reciprocate it, right? Because you have to, replenish, what you get. And so I think a lot of people will accept love, but don't, give it. And it's hard to give it when you don't feel it, right? So that spiritual, recovery, I think, is really important too. And so I do think that, it's all about choice, but it's also about, our DNA and our resilience and our spiritual connection. Sometimes our spirit goes so far away from our bodies, it doesn't want to come back. So I do feel like a lot of people are walking around zombies because their spirits left them, and they don't know how to find it again. And so there's ways that our people used to be able to call those spirits back and, bring those spirits back to our bodies. And those ways they still are alive. I mean, I do feel like, like we should have just one big Sundance. But I do think it's great that there's so many people out there doing that Sundance, and doing the work and experiencing it, because, putting your body through something like that, and praying with your body and praying with your feet and praying with, and taking, multiple days away from this colonial system is so healing, and people need to do it, and at every opportunity. So I support that, but I also support, unity, and I wish that we had more spiritual unity, and less individualism. So, but I just wanted to say that, because I do feel like that choice is, some people don't know they have a choice. And you have to even know they have a choice in order to understand that. One of my sisters was a choice therapist. She had all this, the whatever. She used to talk about this all the time. Because it's important, because you don't know what you don't know. And we always expect everyone to know what we know. And I've been very gifted by a very, educated father who put me on a path of learning and of curiosity. Not a lot of people get that. Not a lot of people get that. A lot of people like don't, sometimes grow up around people who don't even read books, and you just watch TV all the time, and all that kind of stuff. And so, that programming, it's coming. It's coming from and I've been getting after my nephews lately, because I tell them that YouTube is just it's programming you, and you're just being programmed. You got to listen to a story. You got to do something, because that programming it's not good for you. And it's true. We grew up, with not attached to screens, we didn't have any screens, and we only had 3 channels until 1986 or something, I don't know. And so it's a different world that these kids are growing up and under, and they're being programmed, and we're not even aware of it. And a lot of people, are so going through their journey that they don't care about what their kids are doing, you know what I mean? And so they just let them sit on those machines and let them be programmed by things, and other than, the outside. Like, I got after my mom the other day because she was like, "Oh, they don't have to go outside, it's too hot," or whatever. And I was like, "Mom, you never ever let us stay inside growing up. Like, we from 8 to 5, we were outside unless it was time to eat and time to do whatever. We were outside playing." And sometimes, it's too hot now, the bugs are out, all kinds of different reasons not to send the kids outside. But I'm a big, get outside, get in your garden, do the things that keep you going kind of person. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think there's some truth in that. I would just say that you cannot help anybody until you've helped yourself. And so even like me, I couldn't help anybody until I've helped myself. And now that I've helped myself, I can help others. And so I have to take care of myself in order for me to continue to help my relatives, to continue to help others. If I don't take care of myself, then I'm not able to help. And so I think those are really important things. So however you heal, you can help others heal, but yeah, you need to make sure that you've healed yourself.
Oh,
And
definitely.
I think that's some of the problems that happen with spirituality or religion or whatever, is that people are not they haven't really healed themselves. And so you might get somebody at that pulpit that is preaching, and they're preaching to you about something that is not right, but yet they're using and interpreting words and language and all of this stuff, and then they're trying to fix your mind. So it isn't even really like social media can be very brainwashing, and anything can actually be very brainwashing. I mean, if you're living in like a violent home, that can be brainwashing as well. If you're not living somewhere where your mind can be open and free and safe to think and feel and do all of that. And so our environment really impacts what and how we live. And so I think that's like really important to know or to understand. And so the impact of others is great. And so going to a process of limiting time, like even me, like I realized that I was spending so much time on points of view and just listening and thinking about others and all of that. And what I didn't realize is that because I was spending so much time in that, I was actually not even living in my own life, because I was just sitting and listening and thinking and all of that about somebody else's point of view, that I failed to live in my own life. So then I have to start putting some kind of grip on that. So how much time do I give? Like I like to leave my phone now. I'll leave it sitting alongside my bed or whatever. Just because it's just, I don't know, too much. And then because everybody's spying on me,
Yeah, yeah,
the
no,
government, they're all, well, I
I
leave my phone in places where, but
no, no, like I say, I don't even have my phone at night anymore. Like, where I'm at, like, I don't even get internet. So, like, it's very peaceful, and it's been very healing, and I forgot what I was gonna say because I was trying to intently listen to you, and double listen to you, and then
definitely, definitely
yeah,
listen.
yeah. Yeah, so I was like, because, like, oh, I know it. But you said something that made me think about something my dad used to say, about me growing up, and he'd say, "My girl, confusion is a sign of intelligence, so you should be okay." And I was always like, because I was like you, listening to everyone's point of view and trying to figure out, which way I should go. And I did that, for me, like as a, as a spiritual path. Like I went to the Unitarian Church when I was in Rapid City. I was I grew up Catholic. Did all this, searching, almost became a Buddhist for a while there, and did all the searching. And now I pray, and I understand that as an Indigenous person, it don't matter how we pray as long as we pray, and we live with as a good relative. And that's the complicated part, is like being able to do and to live your values, because we live in this soulless place run by these folks that really just want to mine us for resources. They mined our gold, now they're mining our data. Now next they're going to be trying to suck our marrow out. And then they're literally doing that too, I guess, when you're thinking about it. These babies, I mean, Jesus, like so, like it feels like the whole of the United States has become a facade in a way for me, because like all the stuff that I used to find interest in now, I think it's like, oh, it's propaganda, and who is this, and who's lying to me, and all this stuff. And it's just like there's nothing to believe in. And yet, as an Indigenous person, there's everything to believe in, because our teachers are the meadowlarks, and our teachers are the porcupines, and our teachers continue to exist no matter what time period the non-Indians are in, right? And during the Renaissance period, during the Enlightenment, during whatever, we've been, continuously, safeguarding the children, and planning for the winter. Like that's just what we've been doing, and they have been accumulating, coin like a dragon, and sitting up on top there. Now they're eating everything and turning everything into Mordor, and now our way of life is being impacted. So that's why we have to continue to do what we're doing everywhere. And we do such a good job of our people standing up and speaking for the water, and all the other stuff, the Black Hills, Clean Water Alliance, all the people have been doing, this work for a long time. It's the work that needs to be done, and you can't just like not do it, because now we know there's no, I mean, I don't know, we got to continue to do everything, because there's no real clear alternative. I think that for me and you, like we're pretty lucky. We get to work for our people, and we get to work with kids. We get to work for have a fun and exciting kind of day-to-day life. So we can be fulfilled like that. Like I come to work every day. I'm all pretty happy, because I love my coworkers, and I love that I get to help entertain and inform our people. Like that's what I, basically what I set out to do when I was 9 years old. When my dad set me out to do when I was 9 years old, and he put me in front of council. I've been, being trained to do this my whole life, and I'm very, very, happy, because I've gone through the healing that it takes to get to me to a place where, oh, okay, well, I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a, none of these things. But you have to, you have to deal with those traumas, the poverty trauma, the white supremacy trauma. Those are traumas. And if you don't understand the systems that keep those things in place, you blame yourself. And that's what we do in America. We blame poor people because they make bad decisions. That's why I don't like that choice therapy, because like some of us, we don't know have a choice, because we've never seen people go to work. So how do we know you're supposed to go to work if no one in your family goes to work? You just party all the time, and all of a sudden now everyone's like, oh, we got to go to work. Well, I mean, it's very possible, because I do remember. I do remember a family that I used to, when I drank with. They had this little boy who who would freaking get himself dressed in a buttoned up suit. Now he's a doctor somewhere out in wherever. I'm just proud of him. But like his family, he did that on his own. He's motivated. So it does happen every now and then that, people are able to, step out of those circumstances. But they have to be, poured into. They have to have a lot of love poured into them. And the systems right now, there's just not love, there's just hate, right? So, and it comes from people like Lindsey Graham. So, rest in whatever it is you're resting in.
Rest in the dirt.
I mean, I hope those worms don't go to town on you too quick, Lindsay.
Hey, this whole thing that like Lindsay's not here anymore. And you know what we're not talking about? The Epstein files. Like Lindsay was in the Epstein files. And
Yes, he was.
so where's the justice? On my Substack, there's a lady that posts every day on Substack, and she says, and I share it every day. She has this post that she says, if I can get there, never forget that Trump raped a 13-year-old child. She bit him in self-defense, and he punched her in the face. The FBI determined the child's account to be credible. Trump has not faced accountability, not because he is innocent, but because if he goes down, so do a lot of other rich and powerful white men. It is our duty to keep talking about it. We cannot allow criminals to normalize child rape.
That's right.
So I share her every day. She has that up multiple times, and every time it comes on my feed, I share it.
Well, and you reminded me something that I saw something last week where one of the senators were going to be releasing all the senators that were in the Epstein files. Last week I read that and I was like, ooh, interesting. And because I searched John Thune that in what they released, and he wasn't in there, and neither was Mike Rounds. He was in there for like some sort of conversation they were having about legislation, but there was no, he wasn't, on the plane or nothing. But yeah, maybe Lindsey Graham read the same thing I read and was like, oh no, the writing's on the book. They're gonna know I'm a fairy boy, which is fine, Lindsay. We're fine with that gay part of you. That's fine. It's the hateful, racist part of you we're not fine with. But I think that that could be like, maybe that's what's happening. I mean, these are are very like dynamic, I think, things that are happening. I think the war with Iran has really brought in a level of propaganda and information and disinformation, and leaks, credible leaks and things that are really changing some things. And so, I don't know. It feels very volatile, and I'm sad that things are ongoing in Gaza and in Lebanon, and what a disturbing turn of events with Ro Khanna. But what was Ro Khanna doing going there anyway? Like obviously that's what's happening. But it says so much that about him, that he's willing to do that. And I guess I'd go too if they wanted me to go, I'd go over there to bear witness to what's happening, because it needs to be witnessed and it needs to be stopped. And the ramp up of ICE, over the last year, it wasn't just ICE. I wanted to bring up too, wasn't just the ICE shooting of that one guy. There was also two shootings of the National Guard that are in Alabama. I don't know if you know about the Alabama's had this, and Mississippi, I think maybe one of them. They have the uptake of the National Guard, and so the National Guard has killed two people in that upsurge. as well as, just these high profile, racist, like killings, I think, of Black people, the Nolan Wells, the kid who was out with his white friends and they left him on the island. And then all of the people involved like scrub their social media like innocent people do. And so like it looks so sketch, and like it's just like the systems that are perpetuating white supremacy aren't being able to control the narrative anymore. And so it's just right up in front, for us. And it's disturbing. I think a lot of those lynchings, those public, hangings are done by cops, probably, and sadly. But I don't think the
That's what
cops,
they were before.
I don't think the cops protect us, and they're working against us, uh, and that's the truth of the matter. We need to abolish ICE. We need to abolish, I'm not saying we don't need protection, but it needs to be, we need to get rid of these people who are celebrating, cutting barbed wires that keep women in jail. Women in jail. It's a women's prison that they were opening up for in Rapid City, and celebrating that. We're so punitive, and we didn't have prisons before they came because we didn't have such inequity. We didn't have like this worship of the patriarchy. The patriarchy's the reason why we're putting up with Donald Trump doing what he's doing. Sicko, like that's, everyone knows it, and it's just being allowed to happen. And every now and then people like me and you and the people on Substack, people on TikTok are talking about it. But honestly, they're starting to get scrubbed. People are on TikTok, just go down the list of because I follow so many creators, because I know that the algorithm is untrustworthy. So I follow a bunch of people. If they entertain me or they challenge me, I follow them. And so I always have to be going through, and I just go through the list, and all the creators that I've been following are banned from TikTok, banned from TikTok, banned from TikTok. So they're controlling the narrative as much as they can. It's getting out here and there, but I think we just have to continue doing what we're doing, is articulating the the plight of us as common people on the ground, connected to the land. We're never going to leave. Someone said, I pledge allegiance to the land. We're not ever going to leave the land. And the whatever else is around us, hopefully it continues to do what it needs to do. But it feels like, I don't know, it's scary, like a little bit, feels very volatile, and maybe could erupt into violence. And that's scary to me. But also, let's get it over with. I'm tired of it.
I know. Let's be done and move on. And
Yeah.
so good luck to um Alabama, or is it Arkansas, wherever that
Yeah, I think it's
turtle
Mississippi now
senator
that
from.
we gotta look
Is
at that
it?
again.
But where's he from? Where's he from?
South
Arkansas,
Carolina is where
Alabama. Lindsey Graham,
Lindsey
South
Graham is.
Carolina, but Mitch McConnell is where?
Kentucky. He's Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay. So
Yeah.
good luck to Kentucky. Hopefully you guys will get to elect a new senator, and hopefully it would be someone like Thomas Massey. That would be awesome. And then good luck to South Carolina on whatever. I heard it was kind of a scramble because they already had their primary, so they have to have a new special primary, and it has to happen before August 13th or something like that, I was reading. So good luck to you guys finding new leadership. Hopefully you guys get out of your MAGA shorts and panties and
You MAGA
hats
too.
and
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and, and elect somebody better.
Well, they do have they have bad Democrats there too, if you don't remember, because isn't that Clyburn from there? That Clyburn, who's a big
Yep.
Israeli supporter. So they do have bad Democrats
Well,
there too.
Yep. And I think that that whole thing, and then Ro Khanna, like if Ro Khanna would have got done in over in the West Bank, nobody would be outraged. Nobody, because he's a person of color. And and then he's on, he's so there's this article about how Israel has lost the Democratic Party, but not really. I mean, they've lost the base definitely, but they did not lose those elected officials. And so a lot of those elected officials are still over there. And come November, they will be done. But we still have to deal with their voting and deal with their nonsense up until that time. And so I would just encourage people to make sure you're registered to vote and go out and vote against the machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's harm reduction everywhere. So like vote for the least harmful person, and because the system is it's going to continue to do what it can, and I don't know. I think we need a general strike. That's what I think we should end on. I do. I think we
All
need to
right,
shut
we're
it
gonna, we're
down.
gonna go strike. We're gonna strike somewhere.
Yeah.
Strike the earth. All right, Chaz, thanks for joining me this morning, and we're looking forward to another conversation next week.
See you.
Also for those of you that don't know, I've been updating the archives. I've been creating an archives list, and I'm starting to upload. So I put up one with Mo Brings Plenty, one of our interviews. I'll put up another one. And we had 3 individual interviews with Mo, and then we have the Mo and Joel. We have the
You.
Brings Plenty brothers. We've done those. And then we've just had some with Joel himself. And then we've had some stuff in regards to our Lakota men, overcoming struggle that will be getting coming up, women so I'm gonna start uploading our archived stuff from Facebook, and so that I can continue sharing those messages, because there were so many great messages in previous Doksha Hour when we were on Facebook.
And just the bio Joe from the biodata conversation. I'd like to see that one, because I think it's a really important conversation for us to have about data. Like we need to be on top of our data, and so I think, yeah, I'd love to see that, because he told me that he was on too. And and so I
Yeah,
was like, oh,
I've had him on several times too. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because I
Get
think
us all fired up.
yeah, he does. He does. I think that's a it's a really important conversation. We need to be in aware. We need to be aware of what's happening, and he's aware. So
All right. You guys have a good rest